It's another beautiful day in paradise. And today we're going to talk about the same stuff we talk about every single Monday morning, and that is growth. And I'm going to do something that I really enjoy doing, which is taking one of our companies that is going through incredible growth, not easy growth, like hard growth, growth that they needed to search for to get it right, because that's the only type of growth that's worth going after, and actually talk about like how they achieved that growth, what they went after, what are the lessons that can be learned. And as always, there are two types of people on this particular live stream. First type of person is investors, folks that are looking for companies that are growing at 200% every single year. You're looking for companies that have got renewal rates of around the 80 to 100%. You're looking for companies that have got margins that allow them to become cash flow companies, i.e., you got the choice of being able to be profitable or the choice to raise more money, whatever you prefer. Companies that have a high degree of technology already built into the product that they have, all those things, right? And companies that have got some cash in the bank and have got the ability to make it through beyond tomorrow. Okay. And so all of those things are reasons why investors invest in companies. Really, most people's criteria do not go beyond that. The second group of people are startups who are desperately trying to make it through. You know, you're working your ass off every single day so you can make it through to the other side. You can make it through to pre-seed, you can make it through to seed, you can make it through to Series A. And you want to know, what are the greatest startups doing so I can emulate that? And on many of these Monday sessions, we've gone through some great founders who are going through huge spurts of growth, which have become more and more important in this market. We've looked at WhatsApp community as a way of being able to grow users. We've looked at email outreach as a way to grow users. We spoke to Greg from Connexus, and Greg from Connexus was talking about 3,000% growth, which was just crazy. And that was about like, how do you build that relationship with your advocates, your partners, your corporates, and how do you build that and build a strong community around you? We've looked at LinkedIn outreach to do it. We've even had a call where we looked at pure cold calling. What are the tools that you use? How do those tools benefit you? Where do you get into like a really good spot? Blah, 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 blah. And how do you get to it? And today we're going to talk about equally important from a growth perspective, but I actually think even more fascinating. I got one of my favorite companies on here, one of my favorite CEOs on here. Handoyo and I got back right to the very start when I remember we were out in our balcony and I was like, good, take our money. And he's like, I don't know, Brian, we got a really good company, really good technology. I don't even know that we need an accelerator. And I'm like, of course you don't need an accelerator. That's why I'm asking, take our money. And we're very fortunate he did. And then he built out the company. And what came next is a thing of absolute beauty, because the product itself, from a pure diligence perspective of like us on the thing, we're like, okay, does it have the ability of 200% growth? i.e., does it have a very large market size? Absolutely. It's about the cloud, and not just about the cloud. It's about saving money in the cloud, maybe one of the largest market sizes that there is. Do we have a highly experienced technological team? Boom, multiplied by 100. The team's off the charts. Business development, killer with Simon leading that. Technology, double killer with Handoyo leading that. Do we have a market where it's going to continue to grow and has the ability to hit unicorn? Yes, yes, yes. So I knew all of those things were there. But I also knew that in the world of building out an ICP, an ideal customer profile of who is it that we're actually going to be able to grow on the back of, this is not necessarily going to be simple, because we were still in the relatively early days of actually building out on the cloud. And that's where the story begins. So I want to bring in Handoyo. I want him to talk a little bit more about Lyrid, tell you about Lyrid, but then I want to talk almost immediately. We're going to move into the growth journey that they went through. And one of the most interesting and fascinating lessons that I personally learned with ideal customer profiles is that I always look at the person and I never looked at the geography first. And these founders were so brilliant that they looked at the glass from the outside in. And so it's fascinating. So you're going to love the story. You're going to get a bunch of additional tips on how you can grow if you're an amazing founder and get on a trajectory like this. So Handoyo, first of all, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Brian, for all this Very nice introductions, and really thank you for what do you call for having us, Brian, on Expert Dojo. And yeah, I want to introduce myself a little bit, okay? And we are at Lyrid. I'm the CEO of Lyrid. My name is Handoyo, and we are building a next generation, as you mentioned, the next generation cloud infrastructure platform in which our users is able to scale their cloud operations, anything in a cloud infinitely, and reducing their costs using our unique proprietary approach to deliver cloud infrastructure, basically, and we do this by connecting regional data centers with our cloud infrastructure control point, basically, and we create an Airbnb-like computing experience for the supply side as well as on the demand side, and do this efficiently and building like the bridges between all the data centers and create this efficient infrastructure that we can sell directly to the end users as an easy to consume platform experience for any type of business. So I think that's the kind of like the quick gist of what we do. And yeah, I think that we're very, very glad to be here and share our experience on like growing a business.
I love that, and I think, look, what most of the listeners are going to want to hear here, Handoyo, is like
Mhm.
how you navigated this journey. Everybody gets how. And by the way, with cloud, it's really funny. Every time I get on my Google Meet, my otter or my note taker follows
Uh,
me. I'm kind of sure it's a conspiracy from Amazon, from AWS, that they've just
right,
cloud full of terrible things that are of no use to anybody just so they can double the speed. But it's fast becoming one of the largest costs in companies.
yeah, I think for us, I think during the early days, before I built this, I kind of already like built like the insight on like what is cloud. A lot of people don't know what that means, right? It's like, oh, cloud, I just run my stuff on the internet, right? I think like they don't even know like where this thing coming from, where how to build it from scratch, how to actually put this thing together, and yeah, I think how to do it more efficiently as possible. And then yeah, as you mentioned, AWS and all these hyperscalers are just bombarding all this kind of like startups with a lot of different like there's so many information, quote unquote, information out there
No,
that in
and you know
regards
what I
to cloud,
love,
right?
Antonio? You know what I
Mm-hmm,
really like is like even at the
mm-hmm,
beginning, when yourself and Simon came in, you said, look, cloud is a huge cost and it's becoming bigger and bigger and
mm-hmm,
bigger for the companies that are involved. Everybody thinks it's a small cost because AWS or whoever else will give cloud credits at the start. So it feels like there's not going to be any hindrance. But actually, very soon, people reach a brick wall. Now, you had a
right.
great pitch, and your pitch was, I'm just going to call, we're just going to call people, and we're going to email people, and we're going to do LinkedIn, and we're going to say, we're going to reduce your cloud costs, like, period. Like, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
everybody want that? Using this incredibly smart proprietary system that allows the organization to be able to switch between different cloud providers seamlessly. Like, they don't
Mm-hmm.
even notice that they're moving between the cloud providers, but it will reduce the cost because the system is so brilliant. It can tell when the lowest costs are on the right provider. And those, and anyone who feels, well, I don't know, I feel safer in you don't know the difference between AWS or Microsoft. Like, you don't know the
Most
difference.
people don't. Most people don't. Huh?
You haven't got a clue. And so it was very brilliant. And so you came in and you said, okay, I am going to go really hard on email, outreach, systems, everything else. I'm going to
Correct.
do all of that. And so because of that, I'm going to be in a very powerful position. But you started to learn things. Can you talk people through what that journey looks like and what a lot of those early learnings were?
Yeah. During our first early days, I think we found out that a lot of these kind of like things that we actually building, it does require a lot of like trust. I think a lot of the things that we talk about, like that, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people talking about it. We can reduce your cost. We can reduce your cloud cost like by X number percent. I think a lot of these people become the ICP. Well, I guess the what do you call it, the people that we're targeting becomes somewhat immune to this kind of like things. For us,
So I
I
want to
think
make that
the
point. I want to make that point very clearly. And would you mind just turning your volume up a little bit, Handoyo, because it's not that easy to hear. But I want to make sure
really
everybody
okay.
gets this really clear. We have a problem today.
Uh-huh.
The problem is the biggest on email. It's the
Right.
second biggest on LinkedIn outreach, and it's the third biggest on cold calling. And that is that even though 3 or 4 weeks ago I said
Mhm.
you have to sell based on pain. In this market we're in right now, everybody is based on
Right.
pain. The problem is there are now so many messages coming out to people based on pain that even that they're becoming immune to. It's like seeing homeless
Right.
people on the side of the streets. It's a terrible thing. But after a
Yeah.
period of time, good people walk past them. By the way, good volume.
Right. This is okay. This is okay. Sorry,
Amazing.
I was
Amazing.
the thing was picking the wrong microphone. By the way. Yeah, I think the pain part we actually emphasize a lot on that. I think at the end of the day, we also not like delivering like say like hey, this is the pain, like everybody is experiencing it, but we also have to kind of like understand like this you're running a business, you can have a downtime, you have to move it really fast, you actually have to kind of like move it like your you have to move your infrastructures and all those things really really fast, but you need to understand how we're doing it too, you know, because the trust part for our kind of like business is very very fundamental, you know, it's like running, we're like running your business, we're not like one of those tools that you just come in and out like in a day, like people don't just switch cloud like because they look something on TikTok, you know. So it's something that is like they need to think about like really really hard, you know. So we emphasis a lot on like building our brand in the very very early days, and making sure that we pick the right partners, and making sure that our partners is very very credible, that is actually boost up our credibility and our what do you call it, our market, like our brand basically, you know. So that's
No,
the
you
that's
know,
the among
you know
the
what I
first
mean?
years, you know.
You're,
Mm,
let me cut across you again because you're
mm,
bringing up really
mm,
important points that I want to underline. As an early stage company, when you go in and you go against
mm.
or with the big boys and girls, things
Right.
change. It's all different. And so everything Handoyo is saying there actually rewinds back to one word, and that's trust.
Right.
Okay,
Mm,
as an early stage startup, people will not trust you even with the most compelling, incredible product offering in the world. They will not trust you until other people have trusted you and have succeeded based on that
correct.
trust. And
Mm,
so that was the incredible thing you found. You had this amazing value proposition. It's like, you're all crazy.
mm,
You can save
mm.
money, all of you. You are all spending more money than you need to, and you need to be a part of this. But then it became about, well, what if we make a mistake? What if we're wrong? What if we move away from
Right.
one of these big giants who are taking advantage of us and actually it's a mistake? I'm not going to get fired for overpaying, but I will get fired for making a mistake and causing a
Yeah.
potential problem with our data.
Yeah. So we need to overcome that hurdle a lot, basically. I think we built like trust within our partner ecosystem, and that's the key, you know. We listen to our customers, our partners, our user base. We understand our problem, their problem, not only cost, by the way. Cost is one thing, as you mentioned, you know, they're not gonna get a fire like paying a little bit more, you know, but they need to stick their neck to us, and we need to kind of like deliver, you know. I think for us, being able to go through that for like 2 to 3 initial customers, no matter how big they are, like small, big, whatever, medium, it's actually very very important, and very very to show that we can actually handle that kind of scale and that kind of workload within our within our platform, basically. And this is like one of the things that is like for us is a cloud providers or cloud infrastructure platform, you know, is very important. You know, it's not like we can just deliver subpar things, right? Yeah, I think that's for me. I think the first biggest hurdle that we have to go through. Now, once we actually go through that, we actually have a lot more kind of like a lot more leeway and a lot more things that we can experiment on like different things that we can market. And that's where we talk about like the testing out different geography, testing out different uh, like user ICPs, hitting different types of markets, different types of like what do you call that, and this is the part that we start to kind of like learn about where is our sweet spot in our for our customers basically, and learning that
By
sweet
the
spot is
way,
actually a lot of.
Antonio, by the way, what you're saying
Mm,
here is really unusual. Like
mm,
most founders would not have the ability to go down the path that you're about to talk about, right? Because when we
mm,
think about ICPs, we think about a type of person, a
right.
persona, a gender, an age, a socioeconomic group, a behavioral pattern that people have.
Mm,
Like that's how we think. What we don't think about, especially when America is, I don't know, the
mm,
biggest place in the world, the biggest market in the world for cloud, for you to say, and I remember you a year ago, you came in and you're like, Brian, I believe it was Indonesia, but I could be wrong. But you said, Brian, we're going after Indonesia. And then
yep, it
before
is
that,
Indonesia.
it was another market, Malaysia. Yeah. And then another market as
Mm,
well. And you said, because it's not just about the biggest market. And this was a
mm,
really insightful moment for me. It's not just about the biggest market, it's about where our best people live.
that's right. It's like
So,
yeah, it's look, for me, America, I mean US, everybody wants to be here, right? Everybody wants to kind of like be, this is the place, right? I think that, especially Silicon Valley, you know. I think that's it's it makes it very crowded. How about that? Uh and I don't know if a lot of people actually I mean everybody that's listening to this, a lot of you guys are immigrant too, I think. You know, I believe you guys are, you know. And for you guys, I think there's actually market outside the US, you know. And there's not like it's not small either, you know. You think that it's small, like it's a third world country, emerging market and things like that. There's actually a lot more opportunities hitting those type of places, using the technology and the things that you learn from building either a startup or working in a companies in the US. There's things to be applied in other than US basically. So for me, I think it's not only, I mean, I'm hitting Indonesia. You're right. We are in Indonesia. We are there really, really hard. We have a community. We have like a salespeople. We have like a full grown like pipelines and stuff. You know, uh, I believe that it's something that is very we reach that kind of market because it's very, I mean, look at the GDP growth for that market. You know, I feel like it's very, very bullish about that market. And there's a lot of that kind of market as well, not only Indonesia. That is actually, if you look deeper into that market, you'll see that that market is growing. There's actually a lot of people building businesses. There's actually a lot of people kind of like have like the what do you call it, the interactions, and you see growth basically in that market. And for me, I think that's very important. And for yeah, it's not easy per se, but it's very something that you guys should probably try that basically. Hmm?
yeah, and so the question here that's just been put up is:
Hmm?
are you able to share some more about the geographic strategy? Did you start by continent, country, region, or did you pick a certain characteristic to find the countries? And I think, look, this is going to
Hmm.
vary. I want to let Handoyo answer
Yeah.
this as well. But we're, by the way, Expert Dojo are doing the same thing. What Handoyo is talking about is
Hmm?
pure Gretzky, right? It's like going to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck has been
Hmm?
hit from. And so the US is great, but the US is also very crowded. And so everybody comes here straight away. While, I mean, take Indonesia. What's the population of Indonesia?
Oh, they're fourth largest countries. I believe it's around 300 mil at the moment. 300 mil something. I may be wrong. There's a bunch of Indonesian here that may be correcting me, but yeah, it's about 300 something million population. Hmm?
So, so these are huge markets. Like for Expert
Yep.
Dojo,
Hmm?
we're going to go over to India and we Indian people. It sounds really weird. Like for Handoyo, it's different because he had a knowledge of the market
Hmm?
and a lot of the folks over there. For us, I didn't know anything about Indians. I'm Irish, for God's sake. What the hell do I know? I hardly know anything about anything that's not a pint of Guinness. And so I
Right.
immediately became friendly with strong people that I valued in the US that were part of the Thai network, more friendly
Yes.
than any of the other networks out there. And as I made more and more Indian friends, I learned more and more about the Indian market. And then we brought in a chief of staff who now is going to become our general partner over in India. And so we'll open, but we've opened finding out, giving the market the respect it needs. What you
Right.
can't do is just like hire five outsourced people and say,
Mm-hmm.
go at it, son. You got
That's
this. So can you
yeah.
maybe, like, I've given general advice, but like dig in a
Uh,
little bit deeper because
no,
this
no,
piece
no.
is
A
really
lot of
important.
the things that you're mentioning is actually what the things that we do a lot. I found it very very kind of like disrespectful, I guess, to a country if you just going into go to market just by like gung ho into that like what you're saying. I think there's a lot of things in the culture that you need to learn first, and then also there's a lot of things in what do you call that? You have to understand your business as well. By the way, I think on the product side, you kind of have to understand how your product fits into their culture and how they do business over in that market. It's not I mean, I'm not going to say all product fits to every single geographic location, but there's certain products that is like very universal, and the problem is very universal. uh, for us, I think the strategies like that, what you're saying, Brian, it is we identify a certain kind of like geography location that we kind of want to go to, and then we get close to a people that is very very well respected in that region, and then we start to kind of get our foot into that market by partnering. So because we actually develop our stuff with partners with the data centers, and a lot of the things we partner with the data center first. Usually our strategy is like, if we can bring in a notable data centers from that region and type our brand with them, just like how we did in Indonesia, by the way, uh, that can bring your kind of credibility upward a lot. Okay, because I think that's how we what do you call it? They have a brand locally. Okay, and people trust their brand locally too. And if we become partner with them, they can actually bring our brand from outside, from the US or from whatever, and we can actually sell together with their brand. So that's usually our strategy because we're in that kind of business. So what I want to say is, understand who your product, and understand who can use your product within their ecosystem, within their regions, and find out and who can sell your product within that region. Basically, that's how we usually
Yeah. And I,
enter a new market. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's how you've done it, and that's beautiful. So you've
Hmm.
answered Sunil's question in a way too, which is that Sunil's like, okay, but how do you do it? Like, what are the specific tactics you've used? But he's used the most brilliant tactic, right? He is piggybacking trust, right? He's
Hmm.
taking the trust. So he's done two things. The first thing is try building a relationship as a startup with a data center in America. God bless you. You've got no chance. You're going to sit forever. They're going to want to see how
Hmm.
you perform. They're going to make you want to dance on tables. They're going to want to make sure that you
Hmm.
drop in and drop them over bottles of whiskey for Christmas. Like, it's so hard and it takes so long. And you can break through, but it takes a long time. But if you go to a region where your product can be more valuable, their product is more valuable over there. They provide not only lower cost, not only more flexibility, but better quality than what many are providing. And so immediately they can grow much faster because they're looking at the product fit, not just by person, but by region as well, and then going after the region.
Hmm.
Then they go into the big players or the medium players in that region and say, we're going to give you an amazing product and we're going to make you look amazing in front of your customers. And by the way, we're a
Hmm.
US company. We're really good at what we do. So why don't we partner, see how it works, try us with some smaller customers, and then you bring us in. And if we continue to do a great job for you, we would be
Hmm.
friends forever. We would pass backwards and forwards business until the end of time. And that's
Yeah.
why you're going to continue growing at 300%.
Yes, that's pretty much it, man. I think we our growth is kind of like in a way or sense, like you're right, it's partner driven, as well as a lot of these partners, they see, oh man, the amount of value that we brought into their kind of like ecosystem without them even like doing anything, where they're not even like hiring any salesperson and nothing, and we can just jump in, run their infrastructure, resell it to our customers, and done what do you call it, all the whole kind of like end-to-end sales motion within the what do you call it, within the partners, or the partners just starting to like, man, I'm gonna start throwing more stuff at you, uh, it's a good cycle to be in, I think you have to start it though. That's the thing, I think it's not easy to kind of like start this cycle, but once you actually build up this cycle, it's quite easy to kind of like scale this up once you actually have all the operations, all the sales motions, all the pipelines, and things like that. So we love doing all this regional ecosystem stuff because I think they believe in their kind of like regional businesses as well. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
And there's some great lessons here. The first one is you want an edge over other startups or over other competitors. The world is really big. Like, I'll take our example of opening up an accelerator in India. Like, we're never going to leave the US. Like, we love the US and we love everything that we're happening here, but we're noticing because we're watching what's happening in world trends that this corridor is opening up. Now, we see the corridor from India, maybe because I'm looking at India more, but Indonesia is projected to be one of the largest economies in the world within the next 10, 20 years. So the principle is exactly the same. The unicorns in the US are staying relatively consistent, maybe growing a little bit, but the unicorns in India have grown from 5, 10, 15 unicorns to 200 unicorns in 5 years. So all of the trends, all of the messaging is saying, guys, you can sit in Santa Monica and you can do what you do, and you will probably do okay. But why would you not go to the greatest emerging economies that are coming through and build bridges to where you're going through? It's those epic insights to what's happening in the world that actually are the greatest key drivers to allow your product to be as useful as it can be. And if we're growth hackers and we try and facilitate growth, then we know that people coming in from other regions will need that more, which will make us more valuable. Now, Handoyo and Simon and the team in Lyrid did exactly the same thing. They watch the countries which are being overwhelmed by cloud needs, because there's many people looking at videos in Indonesia, Malaysia, and everywhere else as there are in the US, maybe more. They have the same problems, but the winners are not the huge clear winners yet. There is still opportunity to be that multi-billion-dollar company that becomes the huge company, rather than having to fight against the multi-billion-dollar company. So how I saw, there's a really interesting question here, which has just come up from Vipin, which is like, you brought up addressing the pain points of your ICP. Did it take you a few iterations when you got the messaging and positioning right, especially earlier on? Like, I don't think anyone ever gets lucky. I think some people get lucky. I just never met those people, right? I just think
I never met those people.
I never met them. Like, everybody I know is like, the harder they work, the luckier they get. And I remember Handoyo and Simon at the start, cold calling, emailing. Can you talk us a little bit through like the journey of how you worked out the best region to go after? And even when you worked out the best region, even then it wasn't easy with staff, just putting them in place and getting started. Just take us through as much as you can.
Yeah, look, I think talking about like ICPs and this is like a long like discussion, right? Talking about ICP, we iterate a lot. I think if you want to talk about like the very first days that I met you, Brian, versus now, it's somewhat of a different like target market, I guess, that we actually chasing. I think originally we actually tried to chase the developers, the what do you call it, the people that's actually developing the software, and people that's actually developing the kind of like the applications, And we found out that that's not the right ICP for us, because it takes a long time to kind of like to build that kind of I guess revenues from these kind of what do you call it, people, these type of ICPs, and we actually iterate. We actually talk with like a lot of like our partners and a lot of our current customers and current and how we can make this thing faster, right? I think a lot of these discoveries is making sure that we're hitting the right type of person, which is technically, even the product is very, very technical. The right type of person is actually not a technical person that is actually using this. They're actually hitting our value proposition a lot. It's more on like a business owners that is a little bit more technical, and they already spend X number of cloud spend. They already start to see the pain in paying all those hyperscalers, basically. And we have to hit them at the very kind of like the stage where they start to see that kind of pain, the kind of growth, and that's the moment that usually for us is the best ICP. So we have to iterate that a lot of times. We have to figure out like, hey, is this the right thing for us? Can we test it? Can we see if there's anything like anything right? And we test it also in the US as well as Indonesia as well. Since we already built up a little bit of like an sales operation in Indonesia, we also test this type of kind of like messaging in the US as well as Indonesia. The messaging is quite simple. It's like what you're saying. Let's save on cloud. Uh, it's okay. There's a lot of people that's actually hitting this back, but I think the more and more kind of like we kind of learn is like how the messaging is more about like how we can actually give more value out of the things that you're saving on. I think we kind of like iterate that in a bit that your business, you probably can use those kind of like savings to do other things in your businesses. I think it's a lot more compelling for the business owner. Say like, oh, I can do more ads, I can do more what do you call it, hire more people, I can do more this, more that, rather than paying the hyperscaler, right? The AWS, that amount of savings can do a lot more in certain places in the regions, which is Indonesia, as well as in other emerging market. I think that's just the unit economics of like what you need to deliver, basically, right? We kind of emphasize a lot on that, basically. What is the unit economics on how much do you run your operations within what do you call it, within how much do you need to bring in customers to be able to break even, number one, to be able to make profit, number two. Will your current infrastructure, can you even make a profit? We actually do a lot of like analysis and business development with our customers because of that. And that's the part that a lot of people don't kind of realize. That's also another value that we can actually bring in. So in an emphasis on like value, basically, we emphasize a lot of the things that we saved on like not only saving you money, we give you a lot more value rather than normal cloud vendors, basically. Yeah.
And you give them service as well. But I think the journey is such a beautiful journey. So if I
Right.
break the journey into little pieces, the beginning of the journey is we know we have a great product. We know that product solves a huge problem. We know that people are going
Right.
through pain right now. We're going to go to the market and we're going to speak to who we believe are our potential customers, and we're going to allow them to speak to us, and we're going to listen to what they say. And then the next stage is, okay, gosh, we're very new, and that means that we don't have trust built in yet. And so we need to
Right.
build trust. And like that trust can be done one of two ways. We can either spend a lot of money and raise a ton of money, and that they could have done that too. They could have raised like $5, $10, $15 million and just spent ages in the US and just waited to build up that trust and continually told shareholders and their own people they could do that. But that takes an awful long time. And that doesn't, it's a very, very dangerous road, right? So they choose another option. The other option was, we are going to go to people who have a higher degree of need, partners, customers, everything, that have a higher degree of need for the product that we have. And we're going to give them the most amazing customer service that they've ever had. We are going to make their lives beautiful. They're going to be able to contact me whenever they want to be able to contact me. And we're going to make sure that their cloud experience is like a nurse taking care of their new baby. Like that's what it's going to feel like. Then we're going to work with those companies to find out what their other challenges and their other needs are. And we're going to make sure our partners are kept up to date and aligned with everything that we're doing. Like that's how this was built out. I think personally, I think Lyrid have cut about 1.5 to 2 years off the journey by going hardcore on outreach, listening to the customer, building the ICP based on geography rather than just the usual boring stuff, going hard on the partners, providing incredible service so that the customers love them, and now doubling down. And next year, they can go for Series A. But look, the company can be cash flow positive today if the company wants to be cash flow positive today. Like, that's the difference between this model and going the traditional venture capital model. This is why I love companies whose favorite investors are their customers, which is you guys. And so I want to finish this with you. I'm going to do like 15 minutes at the end, just giving Q&A and everything. But I would just like to, I'm going to say a little something about what I believe about Lyrid. Now I'm speaking to investors that are listening here. And then I would love you, if you could finish up, Handoyo, and just speak to us a bit about what the future looks like for you. Like, what is your epic insight of what the next 3 to 5 years is going to bring? And again, you're just speaking specifically to investors. So for me, for investors, let me just do it first. I'll do it first, and then you can take. I can see he's so ready. And so, like, for me, when I first, what I've learned as an investor over the years, and as I say this to all investors out there, that the only thing that matters is execution, really. And there's so many great ideas, and there are so many great products. The vast majority of founders, our funds, believe that the thing that makes them or kills them is investment. But the really great executors see everything a different way. Handoyo and Simon and their team are incredible executors. They believe in growth. They know that with 200-300% growth every single year, they're going to hit $1 million a month, and then they're going to hit $3 million a month, and then they're going to hit 5, and then they're going to be a unicorn. Like, that's just the way it is. They have an ability to be able to think outside the box, or outside the cloud in their case, whereby they went an entirely different road. Any other company to build this up would have had to have spent a ton of money. So the dilution on this company is incredibly low. And now, over the next couple of months, they will be preparing for their first really major round with a product which is proven, with customers who already love it, and win a region that they can dominate in, not one that they're going to need $500 million to go through. So for me, when I look at the company and I say, is this a company that I would invest in? I don't speak for other investors, but I speak for me. If I could go back in time and make the decision to invest, yeah, I would have put twice as much in. Damn it. Right? And so talk to me, Handoyo, about the future. Epic insight. We all know that the cloud is getting huge. We all know that it's not going to go away. We know there's going to be major unicorns. Talk to me about Lyrid and speak to me about what's going to happen and predict the future for us.
So, predict the future. I think that's a bit hard. But I think we believe that as the cloud is getting more and more regional, especially what do you call that? The big cloud. There's a lot of like more and more kind of like distrust in this big cloud on like the AWSs and the Googles, and they're starting to kind of like you can see in the market and stuff like what do you call that, the data centers and the reports and stuff. They're still pretty big, but they're not doing so hot either, right? So a lot of these kind of like capabilities will fall into more and more regional operations. This is actually especially driven by AIs as well, by the way, because a lot of these AI companies are actually driven by a lot of these data center powers that powers them. And a lot of these data center powers is actually driven by the kind of like people that owns the real estate over in that region, the data center owners, basically, I think a lot of these is gonna fall into more and more regional play, even in the AI with the edges, AI at the edge, and things like that too. So we want to fundraise. So we are fundraising, as you mentioned, Brian. So we want to actually get into a more and more emerging markets that we identify to be growing, and we can grow in like a 2 to 3x per year, just like as you mentioned. Within that market itself, So if we can actually build our brand as early as possible within that market, we believe that each one of those markets can easily do like $1 million to $2 million per year, or even like in the next 5 years, like $5 million per year. Uh, that's one market, by the way. That's one market. So it just Indonesia itself, I believe, can do that. And if I can actually, if we can actually replicate this thing to like 3, 4, 5 of those kind of like market, that's easily $100 million business, right? So we are fundraising. We want to get into more emerging market, and we want to connect all this emerging market, connect all the data centers that is uh, that is in this market, and serve this local ecosystem and make a global kind of like a network using this local ecosystem. And then we can scale any type of business, even in a regional. If they want to go out from that market, we can help them with all those things. I believe in this kind of like globalization, I guess you call it that. For me, I think it's inevitable. Things will be like that, and the barrier of data centers ideas will get like torn down in a very next like 3 to 4 years.
I
Mm,
love that. And so everybody
mm,
should contact me to get through. You'll know what's happening here. Like,
yeah,
for God's sake, we haven't even started in AI yet. Like, can you
yeah,
imagine what cloud is going to be in 30 years time? Like, it's ridiculous. $100 million a year in revenue, I don't even think is being optimistic for what can be created here. There is going to be hundreds of cloud related companies that are going
right.
to be monster companies. I don't know if all hundreds are going to be unicorns, but I actually think they will be. And so Handoyo, look, you're a monster. You've done such an amazing job. I've got just mad respect for what you've achieved. Anybody here, Brian at expertdojo.com, I can connect you. It's one of our fastest growing
Right.
companies. You see how they've done it. You see they're bringing in emerging economies into it. It's the hottest space, hottest way of doing it, hottest founder. Handoyo, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And connect me on LinkedIn too, for anyone. Thank you guys. Bye.
You got it. Okay. It's a great founder, right? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You bring in, you go after the customer. You know the companies that we've seen struggle over the last 6 months to a year when things have got extra tough. It's the companies that were continually going after fundraising. Those companies find it really hard. They don't know what to do. And you know what they say to me when they fail? They're like, yeah, the fundraising market's really hard. I don't even argue anymore. Now I just say, yeah, you're right. The fundraising market is really hard. But I'm fundraising. I'm fundraising for a new fund. I think the fundraising market's amazing right now. I think the fact that every other fund looking to fundraise finds it really hard is absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I love those markets. And so why? Because I only care about the customer. I only care about the customer. And Handoyo is the same. And that's why they could raise 3 million, 5 million, 7 million. It doesn't matter. They're still going to build it up to a couple of $1 million a year. And then the following year, they'll get to like $7-10 million a year. And then the following year, then they'll jump into their stride, $20 to $40 million a year. Like that's how they will grow. So, okay, I want to jump into a few things. Now, by the way, this is where you just throw in any questions you have and I'll answer them and I will give it to the best of my opinion. I like this question because number one, I have seen this video, so I know the video deck for this company. So I know what the company does. I know they do marketing for real estate, and they have a huge built-in database or dashboard for marketing, so that real estate brokers can get more leads, which seems like a fantastic idea. Now, coincidentally, if the internet's a little bit slow, it's because I'm over in Dublin in my mom's house. I know, tough, right? But good for my mom and good for me. And she's watching a show right now. And that show she's watching on Netflix is all about this real estate guy who was on $1 billion listing or $1 million listing. And then he moved to then start off his own show. I think it's called, I didn't see much of it, but I think it's called Savant or Savant or something like that out of New York. What I love about this show, what I love about it, is that what Handoyo is doing and what you are talking about doing with Instagram is building a media company. Every company is a media company. This guy who's building out this real estate company, he just knows it more than anybody. He's got a TV show to show his listings. You think he's got problems getting listings when every single developer knows they're going to be on network television? He then has social media, which is breaking down each of the listings. He then had one of the buildings that he had 20 of his agents come out and all record in different languages to make sure that we're there. Oh, that's weird. That's weird, Shashank. So this is absolutely fantastic as a show to be able to make sure that you can do it. So you got to build out your media listing. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Bad news is that you don't have any following. Like 8,000 isn't enough. And so it's okay. Like, it's nice. You're going to get some people who are going to follow you, but this is going to be paid media. So the only thing that's going to matter is, should it be on Instagram? Probably. I imagine Instagram is the best place to find your folks, your peeps. Maybe Pinterest might be an interesting side one to do. Maybe in Reddit groups and real estate groups to go after there as well. But all of this is going to be paid marketing. And for everybody out there, you need to understand, if your product does not win with paid marketing, you will not build a venture backable company. Now, how do you make it win? Well, that's where content marketing comes in. That's where choosing the right geography comes in. That's where your branding comes in. That's where building trust comes in. That's where making sure you've got consumer generated content speaking to how well you do comes in. That's where all of that comes in. But the ability to do it, it's a great idea. What's going to make sure if it executes or not, it is how quickly or how little it costs you to get to your people, and then how much you can sell to them for what price. But I like it. Good on you, Vipin. Build your following and build yourself up as a media company. That's the most important thing to do. I like it. I like the comment here as well from Kevin. You're right. They pay $1 million a day for infrastructure. Find a huge market. This is the key to building a great company. You find a monster market, which is only getting bigger. You find an area to get into that market, which is an area that suits you better than anybody else. You then take that area and you say, okay, now I have to execute, but I know that my cost of digital advertising is going to be too expensive. It's going to be mismatched. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that I reduce that cost by using tactics. The only 4 tactics that you have to reduce that cost are: number 1, outbound awareness that you're sending out. It might be that you're doing supplemental email outreach, supplemental social media, other areas where you're outreaching to people. It can be paid outreach, where you're doing outreach through LinkedIn automated outreach or Sales Navigator or something else that you're sending out. Number 2, by improving your conversions, by introducing trust, by introducing awareness, by introducing other areas that will reduce down that cost of acquisition. You use content marketing. It's so powerful today to be able to do tons of it. I know startups that have thousands of landing pages and hundreds of pieces of content on each landing page so they can bring their cost down. I know startups with the most sublime email distribution methodology, whereby there would be a sequence of 10, 15 emails that go out. It's through your conversion. Your next one, which is what Handoyo nailed, which is your lovable product, not your minimum viable product. If it was a minimum viable product, he would have done it in the US and stayed there. He wanted to make it loved, which is where he took it elsewhere. And then the final piece, which I think he touched as well, which is domain dominance. I'm a freak for domain dominance. I love domain dominance. I want to make sure everybody knows Brian Mac Mahon, everybody knows Expert Dojo, because my access to getting better startups that we can invest in improves like this much. So you got to build your domain dominance. So those 4 areas will dictate how well that you can execute with regards to your buying strategy. And when you work those 4 areas to get that perfect relational behavior between the cost of acquiring and the cost of selling, then you can scale that sucker to the moon. Every investment will put money into you. That's all I got for you, guys and gals. I hope this has been useful. I hope you take away what you got from Handoyo. There are 8 billion people in this world. There is nothing but great startups that are out, and great infrastructural companies that can also be your partners. Is our best companies for us, Expert Dojo, investing in the US, investing in Ireland, investing in England, investing in India, investing in Indonesia, investing in Africa? Where are they? Well, we don't know until we look. So our job is not just to go after the narrow market that happens to be on the same street that we live on. Our job is to go after the entire world to find the best company to go after. That's it. That's all I got for you. Go out there, build a damn unicorn, go and find some great founders, companies, partners, customers, everything that goes with it. And make sure that you're also taking into account that there's a great big world out there with another 7.5 billion people that can be a part of it. Okay, guys and gals, I shall see you next week. Same time, same place, different founder,